Hi guys, I'm North. I'm here today to talk to you about the management and history of the Boundary Water Canoe Area Wilderness, also called the BWAC, a beautiful protected area in northern Minnesota right along the boundary of Minnesota and Canada. The BWAC is currently classified under the IUCN Category 1B, Wilderness Area, one of the strictest categories of PAs there is. However, the BWAC wasn't always this strictly prohibited. It wasn't even always called the BWAC. Long before the creation of a protected area by the United States of America, there were the original stewards of the land, the Anishinaabe people, who were removed from their land in the 1854 treaty. While this treaty does not directly relate to the creation of the PA, it is still important to remember those who originally stewarded the land, and that through the Treaty of 1854 still continue to harvest, fish, gather, and hunt in the area now known as the Boundary Waters. This area was first federally protected in 1909 when Theodore Roosevelt established the Superior National Forest. After a movement to protect the area was started and led by Minnesota Forestry Commissioner General C. Andrews to protect the area's beautiful pinewoods and lakes for posterity and recreation. In 1926, the Superior Wilderness Area was created within Superior National Forest, which protected the area from the creation of roads. After the creation of the wilderness area, resorts and summer homes sprouted up in the area to facilitate camping and recreation. The resorts would even provide plain access to fishing spots, at least until 1949, when a Truman executive order banned flying below 4,000 feet above the wilderness area. This was just one of the many increased protections on the area put in place between 1926 and 1958, when the name was changed from Superior Wilderness Area to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area. The area wouldn't get wilderness added to its name until 1964. The Wilderness Act devoted 1 million acres of land to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. This also put an end to living in the wilderness. Well, that is for everybody but Dorothy Moulter and Betty Ambrose, who were given special permission to live there after a national movement culminating in a congressional amendment to the Wilderness Act. Betty away in 1982, and Dorothy Moulter passed in 1986. The Wilderness Act still allowed for many practices incompatible with the protection of the PA, including logging, mining, snowmobile use, and motorboat usage. It wasn't until 1978 when the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act banned those practices, except for motorboat usage, which was narrowed to specific lakes. Unfortunately, there are a number of threats constantly facing the bivouac. One such threat is buckthorns, an invasive shrub that was introduced in the U.S. for use in hedges and wildlife habitation. However, buckthorn forms dense thickets that prevent growth of woody seeds, including the pines for which the bivouac is famous. Another threat is the disappearing of iconic species from the bivouac due to good old global warming. With warming temperatures, there's a good chance that amazing species such as loons, lynx, timberwolf, and moose may disappear from the area. Another major threat to the Biwak is unsustainable tourism. Because of the beauty and enjoyment that people can find in these boundary waters, a lot of people want to come here. However, with a lot of people, there's a lot of opportunity for damage if protections aren't put in place. This is because high concentrations of visitors can cause damage, such as trash, destruction of trees, mere human conflicts, non-using the streets, trail and campsite expansion, and campsite overcrowding. Although issues related to unsustainable tourism in the BWAC are by no means new, a recent uptick has been seen in correlation with the COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic, people fled into the outdoors, and one of those places was the BWAC. This led to an increase in the number of inexperienced overnight campers living in the BWAC, and due to their underlying lack of leave no trace education, there was an increase in unsustainable activities. While there have been many recent obvious examples of unsustainable tourism, with its own indirect threats and underlying causes, it has been a threat to the BWAC for a long time, with studies dating back to 1987 detailing visitor impact of the BWAC and the Boundary Water Canoe Area Wilderness Act, detailing some rules that need to be followed to protect against unsustainable tourism. The BWAC uses many planning tools to manage threats, including recreation opportunity spectrum, the sustainable use limits, and monitoring and evaluation procedures. The BWAC puts a lot of importance in its recreation opportunity spectrum, with four types of management areas, ranging from pristine wilderness areas with no infrastructure, low impact, and great challenge, to semi primitive motorized wilderness with relatively high infrastructure, high impact, and low challenge. The recreation opportunity spectrum has found success at providing areas for people's different and unique experiences. Sustainable use limits are also used to limit the impact of humans onto the environment. One major limit used in the BWAC are visitor quotas, maintained through overnight and day use permits. Another major limit they have is the rule of nine, where there can only be nine people and four watercrafts in a group. These limits have found some success, with the Rule of Nine being able to limit the impact of noise, crowding, and ecological effects. However, the visitor quotas, while generally successful, aren't perfect. There are complaints of overcrowding in certain areas of the park, and after the COVID-19 visitor boom, they were required to roll back the number of permits because of the increased number of visitors. A third planning tool we use is monitoring and evaluation procedures. These are a set plan used in the BWAC to measure the impact of humans on the environment. They also set standards for campsite and portage trails so they can evaluate and classify their condition and maintenance needs. Through monitoring and evaluation, the BWAC has successfully been able to find areas which require maintenance and allocate greater resources to high use areas. When choosing these management tools, the managers of BYU had to understand some key management principles. First is that the threats are inevitable. If visitors are allowed into the BWAC, some of them are going to be unsustainable. In understanding of this principle, the BWAC created a management plan which tries to predict and set regulations to manage unsustainable tourism and a variety of the other threats which are guaranteed to occur as long as the BWAC exists. The second principle is that effective community education will help to reduce the threats to PAs. This is shown to be true in the BWAC as they put in place mandatory education for visitors of the park. The third principle is regulations coupled with adequate policing may be required to address some threats. The BUAC has many different regulations put in place, some of which I already described, but they don't just dictate regulations and hope that people follow them. You have to put in place a system of patrolling by the U.S. Forest Service staff, which is meant to police the waters to ensure regulations are being followed to protect the environment. Here are my sources, and this is North paddling away.